How you doing, people? Welcome back to another ESO build video. Today is a brand new update to Venom for update 46 for the Infinite Archive Arcanist build, and this is going to get mad. So the purpose of the build is quite simple. Go into Infinite Archive, slap faces, and don't die. Well, generally speaking, most DPS builds are quite squishy. This is actually very, very tanky and has a stupid amount of self-healing. Now, previously, this was part and parcel of the build, but now it's much, much easier. I've introduced subclassing and taken away a load of skills that are no longer relevant to the original build. So this has been altered to catch up or keep up with current changes. That meaning Azureblight is dead. But don't worry, I've fixed that problem. Anyway, we're going to go first of all into the stats and we'll jump straight into the gear. Bear in mind, stats are not necessarily essential because most people don't understand how they work. Most people try to match them. If you just match them with different gear, you're not going to get the same outcome because there's loads of variables that don't show in the sets. But a quick overview of what we've got: 13k Magicka, 28k max health, and 31k max stamina. That will go up depending on buffs and bonuses in your group, of course. 55% crit chance, which will actually go up if you're behind the target because we have a higher bonus if we're flanking. And of course, we've got relatively decent penetration, which is 5.3 at the moment, which again can go up with buffs and bonuses. And we're on 5k spell damage almost, which actually does go up a substantial amount, especially in combat. You can go up to about 6.5, maybe 7k, again, depending on buffs and bonuses. If you're with a partner, they can bring stuff too. Now, resistances, obviously I've turned my buffs off. We are on 28k and 27k resists. We are not far off of cap. We're only 5k resistances on the spell resistance side of things off of cap mitigation for resistances. 64 points into stamina and the Thief Munderstone with flat food. You do not need recovery food. You will not run out of juice anyway because this build gives you a lot of return for getting kills. Now let's get into the gear, obviously nice and early. We have made some changes. Azureblight is dead on this particular build because before we were stacking loads and loads of damage over time. The beam is no longer damage over time. It is direct damage, so the set won't fire from the beam. So we had to change it. So instead of building up loads and loads of damage and booms in between, we've got booms at the end. So the basic setup to start with obviously is the same as before. We've got Leeching Lightning Staff, which is Vengeance Leech. Actually, not Leech and Plate, but Vengeance Leech. This is a 3-piece Cyrodiil set. You can trade it, you can get it off the market, all that kind of stuff, but we've got Precise with a damage shield on the front bar. This also gives us a health bonus, and when you kill enemies, you will get 2,827 health and 2,772 magicka and stamina back per kill. No cooldown, every kill will give you that. We've got the staff, which counts as 2 pieces, and we've got the necklace, which is the 3rd piece. The staff counts as 2 because 2-handed weapons count as 2 pieces of a set. I know that came out in Somerset a very, very long time ago. Most people don't even know it. Anyway, that's the 3-piece set we're using for resource management, and it works very, very well. All you gotta do is get kills. Back bar is a Maelstrom staff. It does not need to be perfected. It only gives you a penetration bonus. The actual set bonus doesn't change at all in regards to increasing the damage of Wall of Elements. So if you've got the basic version from normal, it is fine. You shouldn't be on your back bar for long anyway, so you're never going to benefit from that penetration bonus if you do this properly. So I've got it perfected because I've got access to it. If you've got it, great. If you don't, it doesn't matter. But weapon and spell damage glyph with infused, meaning if your Wall of Elements is on the floor, since it's an area of effect damage over time skill, every second it fires and does damage, you will check to see if your glyph is usable or not, and if it is, it will fire, even if you're on the front bar. So that needs to be on the floor all the time. We'll get to that in the skills. Monster set. We use an Ice Heart medium, shoulders, and helmet, both in Divines. This will give you a crit chance bonus, but when you deal crit damage, you will have a 20% chance to give yourself a damage shield, which is going to happen a lot. That damage shield over time will protect you, and in the meantime, it will do damage in area of effect every 1 second. It can happen once every 6 and lasts for 6 as well. So this can have 100% uptime if you're lucky. The main set we've changed was Azureblight, and it gave us flat bonuses, which is quite nice, to stamina and a bit of recovery and some damage and such. We're going Macabre. So instead of building up damage to go boom, 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 and then they die, we build up damage to kill individuals, and they all explode and kill everything else anyway. So we're still using an explodey build, but the base stats for this are massive. We've got weapon and spell damage 3 times, then an upgraded version of that for the 4th time, and then we've got an extra bonus here. When you kill monsters, they will burst and deal 50% of their maximum health to enemies within 6 meters of them, applying bleed damage, which at the moment is up to 24,000 per burst. This obviously cannot critically strike, and it can happen every 0.5 seconds, but it's very, very strong. The scaling of it, again, is off of their maximum health, but it is relatively capped, so it can't get too crazy. But if you stack direct damage bonuses, area of effect bonuses, etc., 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 physical bonuses, bleed bonuses, and so on and so forth, this can get very, very strong. So, in a room, you stack enemies, you blow them up, they kill each other. Really simple. Now, we have got a ring and 4 pieces on the body. They're all medium, but we have got 1 piece trainee on the belt, which is light, also stamina, giving us an extra health bonus. We've got 1 piece spare because we're using a 3 piece, a 1 piece, a 5 piece, and a 2, which means we've got 1 slot. So we'll take this big health bonus here, which is why we're sitting on such a high amount of health as a DPS type character. Now, we are using the Ring of the Pale Order, which means we are using 2 bars, but 20% of all damage you do will heal you. If you're in a group, obviously that will get less and less and less per ally in the group. So on your own, this is phenomenal. With 1 extra person, it's still good. And with too many people, it ends up a bit pants. Bear in mind, other people can't heal you. But you can take their synergies, which will heal you. Now, let's overlay this again real quickly, or just go over it. Leeching on the staff, or Vengeance Leech even, on the staff and necklace. Ring of the Pale Order. Then 1 Macabre jewelry and 4 pieces on the body, with 1 trainee light belt and medium shoulders and helmet for Ice Heart. Put all this together exactly as it is, and you will do absolutely fine. Now, again, if you have the previous version, you're not really going to benefit too much from it because Azureblight doesn't fire apart from anything that is on the ground with this particular build. The rest of the stuff doesn't apply anymore, so it's going to be a bit slower. This is a much, much better setup now versus what we used to use because of the change. Now, skills. We are taking advantage of subclassing. Go down to here, go into subclass. We swapped out our healing skill line for assassination. And I know you're going to assume I'm using it because of the ulti. Not technically true. I'm not actually actively using the ulti. I don't recommend you do so unless it's a single target fight. So bosses. Outside of that, I recommend you use the back one, which is more defensive and offensive at the same time. There are multiple different reasons to utilize this particular skill line, and we're going to get into it. So, as you may know from the previous setup, crit chance is something that we suffer with on purpose because we were allowing for the explosions that came from the set because they didn't crit anyway. So it didn't really matter. Now, the explosions that come from this set obviously do not crit either, but we're using a lot more raw damage rather than relying on a proc because the proc only happens when they die. So, the base damage that we do consistently up until one of the deaths is important, so we've taken advantage of this skill line to gain crit chance, and some other bonuses along the way. First of all, Reaper's Mark. Put this on 1 enemy, just 1, during your time killing everything. As long as that 1 enemy dies, for the next 10 seconds, you will get Major Berserk, which is nuts. Also, you will receive a full heal if the target dies as well. So if you're really, really low and it dies with this present, not only does it apply Major Breach so you can hit it harder, but it will heal you and give you Major Berserk, meaning all the rest of the damage that you'll be doing for the next 10 seconds will be increased by a whopping 10%. Bear in mind, inside the Infinite Archive, if you end up with Extended Favor, this can dramatically multiply its timer so you can make it last much, much longer. So instead of having to apply it once every 10 seconds, you may be able to just apply it once for a whole round. This is very important. You don't have to spam it. You just need to put it on 1 target to get the ball rolling. Now, if you've got someone else in your group applying Breach, obviously on a boss fight, you don't necessarily need this because it's going to die and it's the only target in the room. But if you're in a big, big pull of trash, which you will be a lot in the Infinite Archive, start the ball rolling by putting this on one of the targets. Pragmatic Fatecarver. This is very simple. It's in Herald of the Tome. Starts off as Fatecarver, morph it to this one specifically. Not only is this one shorter and cheaper, but it applies a damage shield. Why would you want a shorter and cheaper one? Quite simple. If you use the longer version, there are so many mechanics going off. You're going to have to dodge roll. You're going to have to break free. You're going to have to interrupt. You're going to have to do lots of different things that will interrupt this skill. So the shorter version makes sense. So you don't have to keep winding it up for so long. You will need to build cruxes to get the most out of the damage. So if you get 3 cruxes and you use the beam, it will be at its strongest point. The longer one is obviously going to benefit you for a longer beam, but the problem is there's too much CC involved, so you're never going to finish it. Constantly building it up to apply it is something that you have to do with a skill, but with the cheaper version and the shorter version, it doesn't interrupt the flow of combat so much. Again, you've got a damage shield as well, so it's really, really helpful. Your survival is insane with this particular setup. You can basically stand in the face of the enemy. So, we do need to build this up, however, so we want to use this. This is... We're going to skip 2 skills ahead, actually. This is your spammable here, if you like. Basically, you would light attack, fire this up to 3 times to build Cruxes, and then use your beam afterwards. But this does physical damage and immobilizes the target, and if you fire it straight away, it puts a debuff on the target, meaning you'll do 5% extra damage to it. So you want to hit this with the targets first before this. However, this is considered direct damage. It is a channel, so you are boosted from both of these, actually, with your current weapon. But understand the damage types. Your spammable to build up your active beam has a different damage type. This is physical, this is magic. So if you're considering their status effects, this one can apply Sunder, this one can apply Overcharged. This one is boosted by critical chance and damage based on physical bonuses. This one is magical, even though they both cost stamina. So when you're selecting your buffs, bonuses, and such inside the Infinite Archive, the things you want to look for that benefit the build are obviously going to be catering towards certain skills, not necessarily all of them. Let me briefly explain that one. If you have direct damage bonuses, or if you have area of effect bonuses, these two skills are affected by the same buff. But if you have physical chance for crit and crit damage, this is affected. If you have magical crit chance and damage, this one is affected. So it's a trade-off eventually, but you'll hopefully have lots of them all stacked up. But understand, if you're trying to boost the beam, you want to go for the magical stuff, not physical, and vice versa.
I love weddings. Drinks all around.
Excellent. We got a subscriber. Thank you very much. In the middle of a build video. Fantastic. I should have turned those off. That's a bit of a cue there. You can follow if you want. Anyway, the other skill we've got is in the middle here. This does cost a lot of magicka in comparison to the other stuff we're using on the back bar, so be very careful of your bar while you're getting kills. It shouldn't be a problem, but to start with, watch your magicka. This will attach itself to the enemy and do damage over time, but in the meantime, after 2 seconds of firing it, it will pull in enemies around it. So you want to look for an enemy that is immune to CC. If you do that, use them as an anchor point. Activate this, and all enemies that can be pulled will be sucked in towards it. How does this work? Well, basically, if you apply this first, then you apply your flail, you are going to immobilize the target and debuff them all at the same time. In area of effect, which means they've been pulled in together, they're all stuck on the spot, and then once you've built up your Cruxes, you can beam them in a tiny, tiny pack, which means your sets go bang. So it's pull, pin, beam. In that order. I will go over that in the rotation later. Try and make this not quite so complicated, but hopefully that makes a bit of sense. These do synergize against each other, so if you just spam beam, you'll get less damage, but things will die. But if you mix them up nice and cleanly, this makes a lot more sense. You won't be able to use this all the time, but if you've got an opportunity to use someone as an anchor point, like an infuser or something like that, and you put all the ads in, immobilizing them with this and pre-buffing them and then beaming them with this will kill everything in the room. Camouflage Hunter is from the Fighters Guild skill line. It is just there to allow us to have Savagery and Prophecy pretty much all the time as long as we're on this bar, and we get resources back in the way of ultimate if we get kills, and we will get kills a lot. Alongside that, we've got Soul Harvest. Listen very carefully. Do not fire this in the Infinite Archive in trash rounds unless you're against something that you desperately have to kill really, really quickly. You want to build up your ultimate as much as possible for the back bar, because otherwise you're just going to fire this at one target and you're going to be beaming most of the time anyway, and you're going to be hitting loads and loads of targets that aren't that because it's already dead. Waste of an ulti in this particular scenario with this particular build. It's designed, remember, for the Infinite Archive. So what I would suggest you do is put this on your bar and leave it there. For it being there, we get the bonuses from the Assassination skill line, which I'll go over in the passives, and while it's slotted on either bar, technically, so we could put it on the back, but we want the crit bonus, we will get 10 ultimate for every kill we get. Now, what I would suggest is to only use this ultimate on single target fights. So only use it against Marauders or against a boss. The rest of the time you want to use the back ulti. The reason it is here is for bonuses on the Assassination skill line and of course for ultimate for every kill you get. With you killing stuff so fast and getting an ulti back from having a Fighters Guild skill on your bar, we're going to generate ultimate very, very quickly. And we're going to be able to utilize our offensive stroke defensive bonus on our ultimate on the back bar more often. Again, single target fights, take advantage of this. In the trash rounds, don't bother, because by the time you've applied this to one target, the rest are all running at you anyway, and you're not going to do the same amount of damage to them. Obviously, on some Arcanist builds, that works great, especially the BFG, but this is designed for the Infinite Archive. You are going to go up against mass targets at once. You want to make sure you take advantage of as much AoE as possible. So your back bar ultimate is going to support that. Now, swapping that out to here, so we're going to explain this now. It is in the Soldier of Apocrypha skill line. It's the big bubble. You want to change it to this particular morph. Activating it will give you a damage shield, quite a large one, scaled off of your max health, and you will absorb a proportion of damage that the damage shield takes and return it to the enemies. So once it's sucked up all the damage it can during its duration, you will then fire it back, and without any activation at all, it's automatic. Enemies within a 5-meter radius of you over the next 10 seconds will take damage in magic damage. It's very, very powerful. It can shred a room very, very quickly just by you taking less damage. Also on this bar, Relentless Focus. We do not use it. I know you can fire it and do damage and heal from it. We're not going to use it. All you need to do is have it on your bar. Either bar, as long as you build up 10 stacks eventually, light attacks or heavy attacks contribute. 1 for light attacks, 2 for heavy. This will stay with you forever through the Infinite Archive as long as you're not dead. It will build up 40 weapon and spell damage for each stack, giving you a total of 400 extra weapon and spell damage indefinitely, again, as long as you don't die. So all you need to do here is just leave it there. If you fire it, it will consume the stacks and give you a heal and do damage, but we're going to heal like hell anyway. We don't need to. We don't need that emergency heal. We've already got that covered. However, just in case, if you are in an emergency and you feel like you need to, that's what it's for. Unstable Wall of Elements. This is basically in the Destruction Staff skill line. You want to change this to Unstable if you are in quick fights, which you basically are. So whenever this runs out, it will pop, or whenever you reapply it and place it in a different location, the previous one will pop. It will do flame damage on the ground. Enemies caught inside of this will take fire damage, and if they are burning, they will take more damage. So there is a chance to apply the status effect, obviously, and if that happens, they will take more. Bear in mind, of course, our Maelstrom Staff does boost the damage of this when it is active, and also the damage over time. Every single tick that someone takes damage will fire your glyph if it is ready. Rune Guard of Freedom is in the Soldier of Apocrypha... I can't even say it. Soldier of Apocrypha skill line. This is quite simple, although delivered quite complicated. So, if you activate this, you will give you and your group minor resolve. So your resistances are up by almost 3k. That stacks with major, so we're good. You will also gain minor protection for 20 seconds, reducing damage taken. But the first time you are damaged while below 50% health, if this is still active, your minor protection is consumed, and it will heal you, scaling off of your max health. That looks like a small heal. It's not. It's quite an emergency heal, and it is quite large when you actually receive it. And you will also gain extra armor and crowd control immunity for 7 seconds, and this can happen once every 30. Bear in mind, the only thing that happens once every 30 is the immunity. You'll still get the heal if you drop below 50. So if you activate this, then go below 50% health and get hurt, it automatically heals you and gives you a buff. You will have to reapply it, obviously, to start the timer again, but if you do get hurt, this is your emergency-free heal. Yes, of course you have to cast it, but if you leave it running, you don't have to actively, dynamically interact with it. In order to receive a heal, you just need to get hit. Now, obviously, pay attention to this. You do want to maintain it as much as possible, especially under 50% health, so you can constantly reapply that if need be. But this is your preempted, oh no, I'm going to go down, and it just fills your bar up anyway. Keep an eye on it. Cruxweaver Armor. Same skill line, we've taken this morph on purpose. It lasts 30 seconds, it gives you major resolve, but if you take damage, you will get a Crux once every 5 seconds. But you will also apply minor breach and area of effect. So that's pretty good. You will hit things harder because you've got a debuff. All you need to do is get hit. So taking damage applies the breach, and every 5 seconds, as long as you're in combat, you will get a Crux. That lines up to our next skill. Inspired Scholarship. Activate this and maintain it. These two are quite expensive. Do not spam them. Just keep an eye on their timers. If you do damage, every 3 seconds, you will do extra damage. Now, this is based on your class abilities. So if you use class abilities, this will pulse and do damage once every 3 seconds. If you don't, then obviously it won't. But if you do so, while you have no Crux active or available, if you do damage, you will get a Crux. So, getting hit gets you a Crux. Doing damage gets you a Crux. Firing this gets you a Crux. So technically, one here, and one here, you'll only need to do one of these per beam. However, if you fire this while you have none, this will give you a Crux, and so will this. So technically, you build up 2 straight away. So that's how that works. One from this while 0. With this activated, you just need to fire this once. You can't do that on the dummy because the armor needs to be hit in order for you to build it. So it only happens in combat in a situation where you're actually getting hit. So bear in mind, you will have to self-track your own cruxes to get to 3 to fire this. Again, you can fire it before, but you'll get less out of it. So if you don't think these are lining up well enough, or you've accidentally already got a crux, you're going to have to start building them more naturally. So just fire a couple of these first. So 2 of these and then a beam is more than enough as long as these 2 are active. But if you can track it very, very micromanaging, I guess, if very, very carefully, then of course you only really need 1 of these per beam. Depends on the situation at the time, but the trick is build 3, use a beam in any way, shape, or form. Easiest way while maintaining these is to just double up on 1 of these and then fire the beam afterwards. I'll explain that in a rotation anyway. You need all of these skills. There are much less skills than before because we don't have the big heal on the ground, we don't have minor courage so someone else can bring it, and we don't have caltrops. So now you have less skills to fire. Again, you're going to have to watch your magical recovery to start with, but as you go, you'll realize, we're going into passives now, that your return to resources is incredibly high. So, passive-wise, we're looking at these. This will give you extra critical damage, and it will generate every time you generate or consume a crux. So, during that process, this will reapply itself. This one will give you extra weapon and spell damage as long as one of your bars fills. So if your stamina bar goes back to full or your magical bar goes back to full, you'll have a 10-second bonus of extra weapon and spell damage. Your attacks have higher chance of status and increased status damage. And of course, you have a penetration bonus for each Herald of the Tome ability on your bar. You can make that really, really dramatic. We are absolutely fine where we are. Soldier of Apocrypha is very important, of course. If you activate one of these abilities and they stay active, you will get extra armor. So keeping your resistance buff up gives you more resistances. This will give you extra recovery if you've got any on your bar at the time. We do have that on the back bar, but not on the front. This will give you minor evasion for activating one of the skills, and it gives it to your group as well, which is really, really nice. And of course, you consume cruxes on a regular basis, and doing so will give you ulti. This can happen once every 8 seconds. We're going to have ulti regen from there. We're going to have ulti regen from here and here. Assassination. This is the important one. We have higher crit chance behind the target. 6.6% just for being behind the target for having this skill line. You don't even have to have any skills slotted. When an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by you, regardless of the damage source, you will get 1k Magicka and Stamina back. At the same time as getting 2772 Magicka and Stamina back from Vengeance Leech. Stay with me, there's more. Increased critical chance for each ability slotted on the bar. Now you get 5, 4, 8, which is 2.5% per skill. We have 2 on the front bar. We've got a 5% increase. So 5 there and 6.6% here if you're behind the target. Big bonus there. Increases your crit damage for having an assassination skill slotted. Now, that also gives us minus savagery if we do crit. So we've got loads and loads of bonuses towards crit chance and towards critical damage, which is all slotted into this bar without really having to do anything. Without actively pressing this or this, we gain it anyway. But on the back bar, that is why we put Relentless Focus on the back, because now we get it on both bars, no matter what. We are using the Destruction Staff. Understand we're using 2 different types. The Flame Staff, if you heavy attack, will do splash damage, 100% of the damage done. But it's a very easy channel. It's damage over time during the target's channel damage intake, but at the same time, when it pops, it will do damage in area of effect. It's a lot easier to fire this off as a resource management channel than it is the Flame Staff, because the Flame Staff is basically hit or miss as to whether it crits or not, as most damage types are, but it can feel a little bit deflating if you don't actually succeed. So this is a very good room clearer at the same time as resource gain if you are heavy attacking. Bear in mind, however, if you do heavy attack with the Flame Staff, you will put damage over time on the target. Now, the most important thing to consider is the bonuses for the damage types. We do get a bonus for status damage as a class. We also get it if we are using a Flame Staff, which will only benefit us on the back bar. But the front bar, the Lightning Staff, is going to give us the extra benefit of having increased direct damage, which means it directly affects our beam and our flail. So both of those are boosted. The Flame Staff is on the back for the Flame Wall, because the Flame Wall is stronger with this particular setup. You will get resources back if things die to your Destruction Staff skills. Wall of Elements, light attack, heavy attack, you'll benefit from it. We've got 1 piece of light armor. We want this for the penetration value and the crit bonus. It's just the 1 piece, but it does make a bit of an impact. And obviously reduction to cost and recovery is relatively important. We've got 6 pieces of medium to take advantage of crit damage, weapon and spell damage increase, and reduction to cost for sprinting, dodging, and all that good stuff. So that's actually really, really helpful. We don't need a heavy piece. 1, because we can't really fit it, unless, of course, you change the trainee out to a heavy piece or one of the monster set pieces. But I've tried it with the 5-1-1 setup. It didn't do more damage. Up to you if you want to change it, but it wasn't necessary. You lost a little bit of resource management when it came to your stamina stuff, and a little bit of weapon and spell damage to gain a bit of extra health. If that's what you want to do, perfectly fine, but you don't really need to. The damage output and the healing received is mental already, so your survival is already up. Undaunted, of course, you want to make sure you get these 2 passives. Taking synergies gives your resources back, and this gives us a flat resource amount for both bars, or all 3 bars, based on the armor types we're using. Now, obviously, we have taken advantage of Fighters Guild, and I did briefly go over this, but this will increase your weapon and spell damage for as many of these on the bar by 3% for each one. We've got 1. That's very useful. We do want to take advantage of that. In the meantime, if we get a kill while on this bar, we will get 3 ultimate back. So always be on your front bar when you're getting the kills. You should be anyway, but 3 ulti per kill from that and 10 ulti per kill from this makes it very easy to build this. Now, we haven't got any Mages Guild. We haven't got any Shit Jig Order. Yes, that's what I call it. No Thieves Guild. None of that stuff. No Assault. No Support. Nord. Yes, I know. We're a Nord. Why? Survival. That is why. You're in the Infinite Archive. You need to survive. We have maximum health and frost resistance, extra stamina, and you build ultimate when you take damage, and you increase your physical and spell resistance. Now, if you don't want the extra resistances and you don't want the extra ultimate building, then of course you can go with any other race you like. You can go with an orc, which will give you a slight bit more damage. It will heal you for doing damage, and it will make you quite fast. But this is to protect you, to increase the one thing that people do lack: survival. Venom has been a Nord ever since its initial release. It still works incredibly well now. Again, you can change the race to anything you like. You're not restricted, but that is the reason for choosing this particular race for this build. We are very close to tanky resistances with this bonus. It does make a bit of a difference. Now, alchemy is obviously very important. We are going to use tripods. They must not be, well, ignored. If they are grey, good, you're using it correctly. If they're not grey, you're wrong. You must consume those as quickly as possible because they are consumable buffs. Doing so will maintain major fortitude, major intellect, and major endurance. If you want to keep your bars healthy, you need to maintain that buff at all times. People make a big mistake of popping potions when they think they need them. Here's the downside to that. Instead of benefiting from 30% recovery all the time, your 30% recovery is not there, which means you lose resources faster, which means you get down to 0 faster, and then you fill it by giving yourself back 7k stamina and magicka and health. And then that 7k that you just gained back still depletes much faster than it should because you have already utilized about 3 skills and nuked your bar. Now, if you were to maintain the potions, your bar would last longer, and your filling of the bar would be at a higher resource amount, which means you would maintain that amount for longer. So if you did have to cast loads of skills all of a sudden, you wouldn't run instantly dry. Maintain these buffs. Champion points. This is where it gets really interesting. You're going to like this. So, we want to open up this tree, so we want to get some points into here first of all. All these yellow or white ones are passives. Everyone can have these. They can have them all eventually, but you want to get your 4 major slottables. This will improve all the damage we're doing. This will improve the damage that we're doing per target. Yes, that counts towards your beam because they all count as individual direct damage attacks. And this will boost your direct damage attacks even more. So both your flail and your beam will benefit from these, as will all your status effects that you will apply, and they will happen. Bear in mind, while this is an area of effect skill, it does still consider damage per target. Now, you want to get as many in this tree as possible, but that's not a slottable. The other slottable is this. This will give you 7% healing for every direct damage proc or hit or skill that you apply. So that means if you were to use your beam on these targets, not only would you get a 20% of all damage done back, but you also get 7% of all damage done from direct. As you can see here, that's a heal, lots of heals. This is a heal, lots of heals. And now we've got 3 cruxes. Watch the green numbers on the right-hand side of the screen. You are not going to die. Now let's just arguably have some buffs and bonuses from someone else in the group. Now watch the numbers. Now let's have a weapon and spell damage increase. Now watch the numbers. You are not going to die. Single target in the Infinite Archive to start with, without any buffs or bonuses or anything, you're basically looking at about 20k heal per second. In a large room, and you're stacking trash correctly, you can have 50k heals a second. You are not going to die. Not to mention the fact that you've got a damage shield here, which can apply once every 5 seconds. You've got a damage shield attached to your beam, which will constantly apply as long as you're doing so. And you've got a damage shield here if you need to use it. So you are not going to die very easily. High resistances, massive heals, and decent damage output. Ignore the dummy for damage. It's fucking useless because this is designed for the Infinite Archive where those variables don't necessarily exist. Anyway, back to the champion points. Red ones. You want to get this and this. Armor and health. Nice and easy. Then come all the way over to here, unlock this, get this health bonus, and get these two. 1.5k magicka and stamina back for getting kills. So, let's go over the passive bonuses, or just the passive bonuses to the setup as far as synergy is concerned with gear, champion points, and skills. We get 2772 back, magicka and stamina for every single kill with Vengeance Leech. We get 1k back for both with the assassination skill line passives, which puts us up to 3772. And then we've got 1.5k for each kill as well on here, which gives you a total of 5,272 magicka and stamina back for every single kill you get, as well as 13 ultimate for every kill you get, 3 ulti a second for your regular ulti regen, and 5 ulti once every 10 seconds from your race. We have got ultimate and resources out the nose. Green tree is irrelevant. It's quality of life. Pick what you like. I would recommend that you pick this so you're faster between fights. Not that it makes a huge difference. I would recommend that you get these passive bonuses here to make your food last longer and your potions not even fire if you're lucky, because then you will still benefit from them without consuming them. But I would also encourage you to get this. If you're going to delve into subclassing, you need this. Your skills on your bar will level faster. Unless you're already done, in which case it doesn't matter. Now, rotation. Technically there isn't one, so I'm just going to tell you how to play it. This is your resistance buff, your major resolve resistance buff. Don't spam it, just keep it active. It lasts 30 seconds, don't let it run out. Granted, if you get extended favor, this can last a very long period of time, but remember this is benefiting us for cruxes. So if you're not going to use it for cruxes and you just want the major resolve and you get the extended version, obviously you will need to use this more often to cater for the missing crux. But that needs to be maintained. This one here will give you brutality regardless of which bar it's on, because that is its main purpose, but while active, you will do damage to enemies that are close if you use class skills. So you also will get a crux if you don't have any present when you gain one, or when you do damage with class abilities, or any abilities at all. So it's important that these two maintain. Don't spam them, they are expensive. The other buff you need to maintain is this one. This is going to give you minor protection. It's also going to give you minor resolve. They will stay with you until you get below 50% health and take damage, in which case protection will go away, so you need to reapply it. During that time, however, you will get a heal. The resistance buff will stay with you for the full duration, but the minor protection will fall off. So keep this up, if necessary. Keep this up all the time. Keep this up all the time. Apart from that, apart from managing those buffs, it's quite simple. Wall of elements on the ground. Targets inside of it need to be flailed. If you've got 3 cruxes, great, use a beam. If you don't have 3 cruxes, do another one until you do. Cruxes are counted up from 1 or to 0 to 3, and you can see on my bar at the bottom of the screen there is a green triangle with a 30-second countdown on it with number 2 in it. If that goes to 3, as it just did, that's when you want to use the beam. Or you can just look around your body and see the 3 triangles around my body. So you've got 2 options, the visual buffs and bonuses if you have them active, or the actual visual around my character. So to recap, all you really need to do is maintain your buffs, apply those before or beginning of each round, wall down, build up your cruxes, and then beam the targets. As they die, each one will explode and kill another one beside it. Now, in the meantime, if you are trying to position the enemies, you want to make sure that this pull skill is applied to the anchor point. That target there cannot be CC'd, so he's perfect, and he can pull in trash enemies around him. When that happens, you'll mobilize them. So these can't be pulled, but let's, for argument's sake, say they can. That is applied. They're all pulled in. Immobilize. Beam. That's pretty much it. So, buffs must be maintained 100% of the time. Wall must be under the target. Cruxes must be built up. And then beam. Don't just beam for the sake of it. Make sure your Cruxes are there, otherwise you'll do less damage. Always use your bubble ultimate as much as possible, unless you're on a single target fight, in which case use your Nightblade ulti. One more thing to note, this mark here can be applied before combat starts, and if that target dies, you will get Major Berserk. With Extended Favor, which I highly recommend you go for in this particular build, you can have a very long uptime on Major Berserk, which makes it less stressful for your Magicka, and less micromanagey to activate in combat. So you put it on one target, kill that target, these will all get hit harder. Pretty simple stuff. Now, fashion, I suppose, since he looks like Venom from the movie, intentionally, because of the squid arms. Yep, he looks like it. We'll go into here. This is on the website as well. This is the Clan Dreamcarver's hat, the light one. Then we've got Crimson Oath light chest. Kynreeve pauldrons, so Dremora Kynreeve pauldrons, which is the heavy, but it's a signature one anyway, so it doesn't come in any other weight. We've got Ebonheart gloves, which is light. Dreamcarver light belt. Draugr greaves, which is heavy. Walk in Flame heavy feet. Militant Ordinator staff. And a Nihilarch's Chosen staff on the back. The colors are simple. There is a white color for the teeth, which is the middle one on the helmet, and everything else is black. The skin we're using is from Vatashran Hollows, and there is a guide for that on my channel if you need it. Anyway, people, let me know what you think. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Have you tried it? How far have you got in the Infinite Archive? And are you happy that Azureblight was changed? People, I appreciate the support. Hit the sub button. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.